Hungry, he ate a stale piece of bread. Thirsty, he waited for rain to drink. The 3-year-old girl lived like a dog. There was no other way. His mother died, giving birth to him. And this wasn't his first life. Having lived 2 lives already, this was his third. In his first life, he was a senior architect in the 21st century, but died in an accident. In his second, he became an architect's assistant in another world. But the tyrant ordered all architects to be killed. On the road, he saw a pregnant woman, so he gave her his only piece of bread. This act of kindness earned him a ring from the pregnant woman. It was thanks to this magical ring that at the moment of his death in his second life, he was reborn into his third. Unfortunately, he still couldn't escape a tragic fate. His mother died, and his father's whereabouts were unknown. He could only endure the vicious woman's abuse every day. But then, while being beaten one day, the door suddenly opened. He saw the man's face clearly. The Duke. The girl's azure eyes were filled with wonder. Such a noble person. Why was he here? But seeing the woman's terrified expression, he felt this was an opportunity. He cried and recounted the woman's crimes, then begged the man to take him away. The man bent down and picked him up gently. Then, holding him in his arms, he covered his eyes and dealt with the woman on the floor. The next day, he woke up in a soft, large bed. The girl looked left, then right. This place was so big and luxurious. But how did he get here? Then he learned that he had been reborn as the Duke's daughter. After a maid helped him dress, he learned his name was Vivi. Wearing beautiful new clothes, Vivi felt like he was dreaming. When he went to see the Duke after breakfast, he met the man's cold gaze and couldn't help but shiver. The Andante family was one that would draw their swords even on their own flesh and blood for a wrong word. And everyone possessed remarkable abilities. If they discovered he was useless, would they get rid of him? The girl didn't want to die like before. This time, he wanted to live a long life. It seemed he had to show his father some effort. Then he saw a math problem on the paper the Duke was holding. To survive his cruel father, he decided to help solve the math problem. He rushed to his father and said, "Please, give it to me." He guessed it was a problem about the volume of a sphere, probably at an 8th grade level. For someone who had been a senior architect twice, it was so easy. "Please, give it to me," he pleaded again. He believed that as long as he showed his exceptional abilities, his father wouldn't get rid of him. The man was silent for a moment, then handed it over. Looking at the paper, it was just as he had guessed. It only took him 3 minutes to calculate the correct answer. The surface area of this sphere is 113.04. But then he realized something was wrong. He was only 3 years old, and the formula he used didn't even exist in this world. How could he explain his strange behavior? The man looked serious. "How did you calculate that? I thought I'd have to struggle with it. Turns out, I understood it at a glance." Then the maid said, "It seems Miss is a genius." After a few seconds of stunned silence, Vivi quickly acted cute to change the subject. "I'm hungry." And when she saw a table full of delicacies, she couldn't control her drool. Father had a meeting, so he left first. Vivi stuffed her face with food while thinking back. Father's gaze seemed to have softened a lot because of that math problem. After the meal, she was led by the maid on a tour of the Duke's mansion. Suddenly, the maid noticed the ring on Vivi's finger. It seemed to be the same as the Duchess's. Vivi stared blankly at the ring. It was the one given to her by the pregnant woman in her past life. Just as she was pondering this, the Duke's voice sounded from behind her. What's she doing here? Meeting those crimson eyes, Vivi felt a little scared. Was Father unhappy that she was here? Thinking this, she involuntarily stepped back and crushed some small flowers. "Oh no, I've ruined Father's beloved garden. He's going to send me away. He's going to kill me because I stepped on the little flowers in the garden. Looking at those crimson eyes, I just had a full meal and now I'm going to die." Then Father took her hand. Vivi trembled and said she was wrong. But the man held her small hand and didn't say a word. Unexpectedly, Vivi was not only not sent away, but she also got 2 personal maids. They brought gifts prepared by Father. "Miss, these are 10 million credit cookies. Miss, this is the Duke's most treasured quill pen. The Duke loves you very much." Vivi stared at these things for 3 seconds, then her eyes landed on the math problems on the table. Did Father mean that if she didn't want to be sent away, she had to solve all of these? So she picked up the quill, intending to do the problems first, and thought to herself, "This pen seems very expensive. If I really get kicked out, I'll sell it for money." The maids carried her to the sofa. "Miss, eat first. You can study after you're full." With one bite, Vivi was stunned. Before, she could only eat stale bread to fill her stomach. She didn't expect cookies could be so delicious. "This is wonderful. I really want to stay here forever. Suddenly, she thought of something and offered 2 cookies to the maids. Good things should be shared. That way, everyone will be happier. Seeing how sweet and thoughtful Miss was, the maids couldn't help but hug her. We're so excited for Miss's birthday in a month. But on the day of her birthday, Vivi was pulled out of bed early. As they combed and dressed her, the maids told her that the Duke would also be present today. Thinking that she hadn't seen Father for a long time, Vivi poked her little cheek. Then I'll have to behave well later. But she waited in the dining room for 3 hours and still didn't see Father. Actually, she understood. Her birthday was the day Father lost his wife. It must be hard for Father to face her. She made a wish to celebrate my birthday with Father next year. Suddenly, a rush of footsteps came. The 3-year-old girl wished to grow up quickly. Then, overnight, she grew to 18. Looking at herself in the mirror, Vivi frantically recalled the events of the day. Originally, she was sad that her father hadn't come to celebrate her birthday, wishing to be with him next year. But then she suddenly heard Father's voice. "I'm sorry I'm late. Something came up." The Duke's travel-worn appearance surprised and delighted Vivi. He glanced at the man before, earnestly explaining that a robbery had taken place. He'd come as soon as it was dealt with. He promised he wouldn't be late next year. This gave Vivi an idea. A great person once said good deeds deserve praise. Now was her chance to shower him with compliments. Clearing her throat, she declared, "Daddy went to punish the bad guys. That's so cool. Daddy's the best." The air froze. Her thumbs up was met with a chilling silence. After a long moment, the Duke asked what the gesture meant. Vivi quickly explained that it meant super cool, awesome, amazing. The Duke immediately replied, "Then keep holding it up." Later, Vivi blew out her candles, surrounded by everyone. In 3 lifetimes, this was her first birthday celebration. In her first life, only advertisement texts wished her a happy birthday. In her second, she didn't even know when her birthday was. This life was already so happy. The Duke even asked if she wanted a gift. A birthday shouldn't pass without a gift. But Vivi felt she already had more than enough. Seeing she couldn't think of anything, the Duke promised that before her next birthday, he would get her anything she wanted. With that, he stood to attend to his duties. Just then, Vivi noticed blood on his shoulder. Was he hurt? But before she could ask, he was gone. That night, on the way back to her room, Vivi made a wish in her maid's arms. "I want to grow up quickly, so I can help Daddy." But looking at her tiny body, Vivi thought for 3 seconds, then decided, first, run. The girl had a magical ring. She could use it to reincarnate. She could also use it to make wishes come true. When she was dying in her second life, thanks to this ring, she was reborn into the Duke's family 100 years in the future. She became the cold-hearted Duke's only daughter. On her 3rd birthday, she wished to grow up quickly. As a result, she instantly turned 18 overnight. She didn't know it was the ring's power. So she fled the Duke's mansion that night, mainly because she couldn't explain the phenomenon. But she was also excited to see the flourishing empire 100 years later. But when she got outside, the streets were pitch black and deserted. The buildings looked dilapidated. Devastated and with nowhere to go, Vivi found a tree and sat under it all night. She dreamt of being beheaded in her second life. Waking up, she wondered, could the current state of the buildings be because all the architects were dead? But the most important thing right now was to find a way to survive. She sold the dagger she'd stolen from the mansion for 1 gold coin. But she suddenly lost the desire to spend it. The city was so desolate. She didn't know where to go or what to do. Thinking of her kind nanny and the maids who looked at her with starry eyes every day, Vivi felt heartbroken. If she had known this would happen, she wouldn't have wished to grow up so quickly. She wanted to go back. As soon as the thought crossed her mind, her head began to spin, and she collapsed to the ground. The ring on her finger glowed faintly. After a long time, she was awakened by commotion. 2 figures, one fat and one thin, were squatting in front of her, staring with malicious intent. Vivi was shocked to discover she had become a child again. But then, a lecherous hand reached out for her. A man poked her small cheek. "How much can this little thing fetch?" Then she was thrown into a tent. "As long as you stay put, we won't hit you." With that, the fat figure and the thin figure left. Vivi prayed, "Someone, please save me." The girl had lived 3 lives. Each time, she didn't live past 18. This time, at the tender age of 3, she was caught by human traffickers. She prayed for someone to rescue her, but she overheard the traffickers talking about corpses. "It's over," she thought. "I'm definitely going to die." But then she thought again, what's so scary about corpses? When it came to death, she was a veteran. So, she bravely looked around. She even took a sniff. There was no smell of decay or blood. Just as she let her guard down, A white cloth in the distance caught her attention. A child was lying underneath. Vivi's face immediately paled. Is he dead? She reached out and checked the boy's pulse. Strangely, his pulse was still there, but his body was ice cold. The boy was quite handsome. Vivi had a flash of inspiration. If I give him some warmth, maybe he'll wake up. With that thought, she took the boy's hand and started rubbing it. But she rubbed for a long time, and the boy didn't show any signs of reviving. Seeing him wearing a mask and foot coverings, Vivi wanted to help him remove them. But the moment her hand touched them, they were pulled away by a mysterious force. She wanted to do something more, but suddenly a loud bang erupted from outside, followed by a raging fire. It seemed they were under attack. Vivi sensed this was her chance to escape. But what about the boy? He was still alive. She couldn't just leave him. Wake up, corpse. If you don't get up, you'll really become a corpse. After 3 seconds of effort, she gave up. It was a pity about his handsome face, but she had tried her best. Vivi pulled back the curtain, praying, please let there be no one outside. But as soon as she stepped out, she saw a pair of feet. She quickly started to cry. I wasn't trying to run away. Looking up, she saw her father's handsome face. Vivi, I've been looking everywhere for you. From the moment he learned his daughter was missing, the Duke had dropped all his duties and searched everywhere, even ignoring the wound on his shoulder. Seeing her father, Vivi froze. She hadn't expected him to come and save her. What should she do now? Should she thank him or act spoiled? What does one do when they're happy? Unable to figure out, Vivi just started to cry. Before meeting her father, the Duke, she had only rainwater to drink. But after meeting him, she had been spoiled like a little princess. Even so, she never expected him to be so kind to her. After all, rumor had it that their family, when Ruthless, would even turn on their own. Unexpectedly, her body had grown, and she had escaped the Duke's mansion, only to shrink again and be captured by traffickers. Seeing her father come to rescue her, she was both happy and at a loss. So she just cried. Because she hadn't expected it, she was even more moved. The Duke comforted her, don't cry. Nothing scary will ever happen again. But she cried even harder, taking her father's outstretched hand. She had once wished for someone to be kind to her. It felt like her wish had come true. Then he suddenly remembered the body lying there. Vivi asked her father to bring him home too. The obedient Duke picked up the boy. On the way back, he put Vivi to bed and then turned his head to the side. Tomorrow, have all the gate guards assemble. When they arrived at the Duke's mansion, the nanny was the first to rush over and hug him. They had been frantic after Vivi disappeared. No one knew she had grown bigger and snuck out. They thought she had been kidnapped. Later, the nanny brought small cakes and fruit. Vivi, changed into clean clothes, nibbled on a sweet and fragrant apple pie. The nanny then fed her grapes. She felt so good to be home. Unfortunately, the boy she brought back hadn't woken up. Her father said he seemed to be under a complicated curse. However, she believed her father would definitely find a way to save him. Now, in Vivi's eyes, the Duke was the most affectionate and gentle person in the world. The next day, while passing through the corridor, she saw the soldiers kneeling on the floor. Your Grace, we were wrong. Please spare our lives. Vivi watched, dumbfounded. Was her father going to kill everyone because she snuck out? The next second, the Duke's icy voice rang out. With so many guards, suspicious people were still able to come and go. I'll give you 1 hour to commit suicide. Seeing the soldiers raise their swords to themselves, Vivi immediately rushed over and shielded them. No, you can't kill them. Even a bloodthirsty man couldn't resist his precious daughter. The thought of killing everyone vanished. The Duke was so terrifying. In an instant, all his anger dissipated. He even began to question himself. Am I really that scary? Meanwhile, his daughter, putting on a dramatic performance, hid fearfully beside the nanny. The nanny comforted her. His Grace will show mercy. So please don't cry. Hearing this, Vivi sobbed while looking at her father. The Duke immediately surrendered, retracting his previous order to take everyone's lives. Instead, he fined them a month's wages. Vivi secretly breathed a sigh of relief. The soldiers looked at Vivi as if she were an angel descending from heaven. Thank you, Your Grace. Thank you, miss. But only Vivi knew that it was because she had suddenly grown bigger and snuck out of the Duke's mansion that this whole mess had occurred. She couldn't help but wonder how her body could grow and shrink. Then, she asked the nanny if the boy she brought back last night had woken up. She wanted to see him. The Duke overheard this. He first said the boy had been sent elsewhere, and then asked with a gloomy expression, so you want to see that boy before you see me? Sensing her father's anger, Vivi quickly explained that she wanted to visit him before bed, because seeing her handsome father before bed meant he would appear in her dreams. It proved that acting spoiled worked wonders. After hearing this, although the Duke didn't show it on the surface, he smiled as he turned away. That evening, Vivi, dressed by the nanny, put on a pink dress and knocked on her father's door. Seeing her arrive, the Duke gruffly said, "Go sit there and drink that." In reality, because the weather had turned cold, he had specially prepared hot cocoa to warm his daughter up, but paired with his icy expression, Vivi almost downed the entire scalding cup in one gulp. Feeling her father's love, Vivi also wanted to do something, so she mustered up her courage. "I have something for you, to win over my tyrant dad." The 3-year-old displayed her superpower, doing math. Having been a senior architect in her past 2 lives, math was child's play. She had planned to wait until she was older to show her talent, but her dad had saved her life twice, and he was so good to her. Seeing her dad worried about the weapon development process, she immediately offered a simpler magic formula for calculating the trajectory. The Duke's tone suddenly became low. "I always thought you were extraordinary." As expected, Vivi became nervous. Was he going to realize she wasn't really a child? Unexpectedly, the Duke said, "Vivi, you're a genius." Phew, Dad didn't find out. But just as she breathed a sigh of relief, the Duke continued. "When someone with exceptional abilities can't protect their power, they become prey in the eyes of others. So you must listen carefully to your father's warnings." The adorable child widened her eyes. "Then can't Dad always stay by my side?" She quickly added, "Not forever, of course. Just until I grow up. I hope Dad can always be with me." His daughter's cautious and tentative manner made the Duke's heart ache. If only her mother hadn't died when she was born, and if he had been there for her sooner, she wouldn't have been abused by that vicious woman. So he promised, "I understand." Although it wasn't some heartwarming quote for this usually cold man, it was already a lot. A few days later, the formula Vivi provided to her father was applied to weapon development. To avoid exposing his daughter's identity, he deliberately concealed the inventor of the formula. But the good times didn't last long. Vivi's wet nurse suddenly left the Duke's mansion. It seemed something had happened at her home. And that night, after listening to the maid's stories, Vivi fell asleep. But she didn't sleep deeply. She unexpectedly overheard that a guest was arriving tomorrow. Was it the Baroness, the one who abused her and her wet nurse? Vivi's heart skipped a beat. She then learned that this Baroness was, in terms of kinship, her aunt. The Baron was her father's younger brother, and the second in line to the dukedom. Lying in bed, Vivi clenched her tiny fists. If they were coming to cause trouble, she wouldn't let them get away with it. In order for his own son to inherit the title, the newborn baby had become a thorn in his side. He secretly hired a cruel wet nurse. For the next 3 years, Vivi was either beaten or starved. Fortunately, her father, the Duke, brought her home. Otherwise, she would have been tortured to death. So now, looking at the wicked woman, Vivi greeted her with a smile on her face, while a vengeful fire burned in her heart. The Baroness returned a fake smile. She called her children to greet the Duke. Then a chubby little boy and a short-haired little girl got off the carriage. The boy was called Houston, and the girl was called Magina. The two immediately started their taunts. The girl mocked Vivi for not even greeting them, while the boy bragged about their carriage. "Have you ever seen such a magnificent golden carriage? It's handcrafted by the most famous artisan. If you beg me, I'll let you experience it." Vivi scoffed. "What garbage are you showing off?" Her family, as one of the 3 grand ducal families, practically owned all the handcrafted goods circulating in the market. He's practically a spoiled rich kid living off his family's wealth. What's there to be envious of? The Duke then asked Vivi, "Do you want that carriage?" Before Vivi could answer, the Baroness began to lecture her children. "You should understand, even though you've both been smart and well-behaved since you were young, Vivi is different." She said this with a fake, saccharine smile. Afterwards, everyone dined together. Even though she was eating with people she disliked, Vivi was full of energy. After all, the food was innocent. However, her unrestrained eating and drinking drew disdain from Houston. "How foolish. You're getting food everywhere." Vivi's movement stopped. The Duke's gaze sharpened. The air instantly froze. Vivi, thinking her father was angry because she had embarrassed him, took a serving of steak. She thought that eating something delicious might appease him. Unexpectedly, her father took the knife from her hand. "Do you want me to feed you?" He then cut off a piece and fed it to his daughter. He gently asked, "Would you like anything else?" Houston continued to be obnoxious. I could feed myself at that age. Fortunately, his mother covered his mouth this time. The Baron, sitting nearby, spoke. He had actually come to borrow money from his brother. Have you ever seen the most entitled people? There was this family. The son bragged, saying their family's carriages were all made of gold and handcrafted. The mother was vicious, so that her son could become the Duke's heir. That she sold the Duke's own daughter to an abuser. The father was spineless. He lacked ambition and was a gambler. This time, he came to his brother to borrow money for an investment. He'd heard the royal prince was very handsome. He believed that when the prince grew older, his beauty would shine and turn into money. As for their daughter, we'll talk about her later. The Duke wasn't foolish. They had arrived and immediately started insulting his precious daughter, and they wanted to borrow money. No chance. Vivi, who was drinking tea, suddenly flung her cup away. She started gasping for air, and coughing violently. The Duke panicked. Before losing consciousness, Vivi saw the Baron and Baroness smiling. Had they poisoned the food? A long time passed. Before Vivi, feeling teardrops, slowly opened her eyes. How many fingers am I holding up? What's your name? Her father asked. Who am I? How many apple pies did you eat today? Seeing his daughter answer fluently. But he was relieved and hugged her, patting her back. Vivi then noticed a group of people standing by the bed. Father, why are those people? The Duke's voice was cold and merciless as he held his daughter. Take them all out and deal with them. It turned out that the Baron and Baroness hadn't poisoned her. Vivi was allergic to grapefruit. After drinking 2 large glasses of grapefruit tea at dinner, that she had gone into anaphylactic shock, seeing her father's furious desire to kill everyone. Vivi didn't want so many innocent lives lost because of her indulgence. After all, she hadn't even known she was allergic to grapefruit. At first, the Duke refused her pleas. He had almost lost her, but he couldn't resist his daughter's dramatic pleas. A single daddy's the best. Mean daddy who hurts people made the old father surrender. But just this one thing. Vivi understood how important he was in his father's heart. He felt even more that he had to do something for his father. But one day, while basking in the sun on the lawn, Meginus suddenly approached, wanting to invite him for a walk. My family is leaving in a few days. I want to make some good memories with you. Born a noble, he looked down on his own family and parents. Believing there was no future with them, he took advantage of this visit to his uncle, the Duke, and hatched a plan to stay. First, he invited the Duke's daughter for a walk, hoping to get closer to her. On the way, he tentatively asked, I always wished I had a younger sister. How would you feel about having an older sister? Vivi replied, it's all right. Megina instantly cried out excitedly. I can't believe I persuaded you so easily. Then, holding Vivi's hand, she declared from today onwards, we are sisters. Vivi was bewildered, wondering what kind of play this person was putting on. Then Megina acted as if she was being thoughtful, saying she knew her younger sister had encountered a disruptive wet nurse before and hadn't been able to properly learn etiquette. She would teach her well from now on. This time, Vivi understood. She shook off Megina's hand. I don't think that's necessary. How I am is none of your business. Besides, we're not that close. With that, she turned and strode away. The Megina behind her immediately changed her expression, accompanied by exaggerated cries. She performed a dramatic fall and started crying. Even if you don't like me, you can't push me. It just so happened that her father was passing by. Seeing his daughter on the ground, he quickly scooped her into his arms and angrily rebuked Vivi. What are you doing? You actually pushed Megina down. Startled, Vivi accidentally stepped on someone while backing away. Looking up, she saw it was the Duke. She finally understood. So they had set a trap for her. Just as the Duke opened his mouth to ask what had happened, a pair of wide eyes peeked out from the bushes. Then 2 people suddenly popped out. The young lady has been wronged. That young lady fell down on her own. We saw it with our own eyes. He's lying. Seeing the tide turning, Megina quickly got up. She explained that she had fallen because Vivi said she didn't want to be close to her, and she had mistakenly thought Vivi pushed her. It seems I misunderstood you. I sincerely apologize. I'm sorry. Such adaptability. She's bound for greatness. Vivi sighed. She saw the girl's cunning, but she didn't bother to respond. The Duke, however, spoke up. The 3-year-old girl has decided to build a house for her wet nurse. It's this kindness that makes everyone adore her. When she was framed, the guard stepped forward to testify for her. The Duke asked them irritably, why aren't you working? What are you doing here? The 2 men held up signs that read, I love Vivi. We are members of the I Love Vivi Club. Our mission is to protect the young lady. The Duke was speechless. He picked up his daughter and ran. Now, there were more and more people devoted to his precious Vivi, but building a house required soil, preferably loess. so that they could build a sod house. As for why she suddenly wanted to give the wet nurse a house, it was because Vivi learned that before she died, because the emperor at the time ordered the demolition of all the architects' homes. That which led to a situation 100 years later where, in Ishweef, houses collapse when it rains heavily. The wet nurse and another maid left one after another because their homes were destroyed and their families were injured. That's why Vivi had this idea. Maybe it could help the Duke in the future, too. All Vivi needed to do was create the design, find Luss, and figure out the right proportions for it to solidify. Finally, find a way to ask the Duke for some money, and it should be fine. Vivi didn't expect to get stuck on the first hurdle. That day, Vivi was having breakfast with the Duke, as usual, but then the Duke pulled a necklace out of his pocket. "This is yours now. His name is Elf. It's a holy relic blessed by the spirits. Every holy relic contains invincible power. I asked the administrator for this for you. He can protect you when I'm not around." Vivi clutched the necklace tightly. First, being abandoned by parents. Second, being sold by parents. It's so nice to have a Duke in this life. The Duke told Vivi that there's a crazy elf inside the holy relic. Try summoning it. Then a gust of wind arose. When Vivi opened her eyes again, a small elf was fluttering its wings. Dot looking at Vivi with a smile. Vivi absolutely loved it, especially since it was a gift from the Duke. Vivi wanted to express gratitude and flatter him properly. But then Vivi's stomach rumbled loudly. A girl discovered that Vivi's ring could grant wishes. After Vivi finished eating and disappeared into the room, a chubby boy came in and said, "This place isn't that great." Vivi asked him what he was doing there. The chubby boy said arrogantly, as the future heir to the Duke, "I'm inspecting the place that will soon become my home. Do you have a problem with that?" Vivi reminded him, "I'm the daughter of the Andante Duke, okay?" But the boy scoffed. "You think the Duke will designate you, the one who killed our mother, as his heir? Dream on." Vivi's anger soared. "Before I bury you, you better pay for that." Vivi raised a fist about to strike, when suddenly a pair of hands grabbed Vivi. It was Megaina, Vivi's two-faced sister. She apologized to Vivi while scolding the boy for his behavior. After they left, Vivi was still fuming before bed, feeling like she hadn't performed well. That pair of siblings were definitely up to no good. Vivi wished she could grow up quickly. Then, when Vivi opened her eyes again, she was an adult. Remembering the elf's protection, Vivi immediately summoned the elf to help her fly out of the Duke's mansion. Ever since learning about the wet nurse's collapsed house, Vivi had wanted to see it. That way, Vivi could help build a new one. But when Vivi actually got there and touched the wall to examine it, Vivi suddenly noticed something was wrong with the ring. The colors seemed to have changed. Just as Vivi was pondering this, the house began to collapse again. Vivi quickly prepared to return home. But before leaving, Vivi conducted an experiment. Vivi wished on the ring, "I want to become a child again." The next day, Vivi woke up looking like a 3-year-old. Seeing the ability to change age at will overnight, Vivi was overjoyed and confirmed that the ring was also a holy relic. Now, with the ring to grow up and the elf to fight, Vivi was fully capable of building a house. So, Vivi decided to go to the courtyard and ask the gardener about Luss. Unexpectedly, he tripped and fell. The necklace in his hand dropped to the ground. The maid hurriedly asked if he was all right. More than the pain, his first priority was to pick up the necklace. Back in his room, after changing clothes, he found the necklace had not only changed color, but he could no longer summon the wind elf. He was Daddy's precious little darling, but now he was crying his eyes out. "Daddy's definitely going to kill me this time." Still, he had the maid take him to his father. And when he finally saw the Duke, he remained silent for a long time. Finally, he mustered the courage to explain what happened. "I fell in the courtyard yesterday, and I think I broke the necklace you gave me. The elf inside won't come out no matter how much I call." Having said that, Vivi waited for the Duke's anger. Although the maid reassured her that the Duke loved her so much that he would forgive her even if she made a mistake, Vivi didn't believe it. This was a holy relic that Daddy had requested from another family. This could easily cause a dispute between the two families. When it came to profit and loss, even family ties were useless. But after waiting for a while, "Are you hurt anywhere?" The Duke didn't ask a single question about the necklace. Instead, he was only concerned about Vivi's injuries. This made Vivi feel even worse. She would rather her father scold her. Then the Duke revealed his secret. He was actually very useless. It took him almost 3 years to eliminate the monster. That was why he couldn't be by his wife's side when she gave birth. He didn't even see her one last time. Even when his daughter was left in the imperial capital and suffered through that hellish time of abuse. It was all because he couldn't get there in time. Hearing this, Vivi immediately retorted that it wasn't Daddy's fault. Besides, these two matters were different. Her actions could very well cause trouble for Daddy. This time, before she could finish, the Duke interrupted her. No matter what, it's not your fault. And if anything really happens, I'll take responsibility. You don't have to worry. Seeing that his daughter's mood had stabilized somewhat, he took the opportunity to tease her. You look like a pouty doll. Suddenly, there was a knock at the door. Duke, the lemon cake specially prepared for your daughter is ready. Watching Vivi eat with a blissful expression, he handed her warm milk. Eat slowly. You might choke. He then found a book about the Elf King and asked the maid to read it to his daughter, to help her learn more about elves. This gesture moved Vivi so much that she gave him a big kiss. An adult is yelling. You probably think the child is being disobedient and the adult is scolding them. This woman is evil. She urged her husband to usurp her brother's dukedom and viciously almost killed the Duke's only daughter. That foolish Vivi. I must make sure my son inherits the dukedom. Then this place will all be mine. Meanwhile, completely unaware of the danger, the girl was overjoyed after leaving her father's room. She thought her father would be angry that she broke something, but not only did he gently comfort her, he even asked if she needed any lust recently. Vivi was surprised and wondered how her father knew. The Duke gave a doting smile. The entire duchy is mine. Just tell me what you want from now on. With the lust problem solved, and build a house for the wet nurse. He skipped away happily, but at the corner, he unexpectedly bumped into the Baron's wife. But she saw him. Well, if it isn't Vivi. Our Euston has been practicing building since dawn. You haven't even started, have you? Someone like that can't be the heir. Since no one else was around, she spoke without restraint. Vivi wasn't going to put up with her. He recounted how the little fatty had rudely barged into his room last night and spouted nonsense. Her precious son was being scorned. The woman snapped, "You little thing without a mother. If you want to keep that tongue of yours, you'd better watch yourself." But her threat was met with a smile from Vivi. Suddenly, he dramatically faked a fall. Then he started wailing. "Daddy, she's going to hit me. I didn't do anything. It's my fault." The woman's hand, poised to strike, froze. She was stunned. A voice came from behind her. "What are you doing to the young miss?" Just then, a maid came running. Vivi cried, even louder. "I'm scared. I want to go somewhere else." The woman was speechless as she watched Vivi being led away. A glint of amusement shone in Vivi's eyes. "I just did the same thing your daughter does, to please his daughter." The Duke gave her a mountain of lust. Looking at the 3-story-high pile of yellow earth, Vivi felt a pang of guilt. How much did this cost? He had only intended a simple test. Dad is so extravagant. Just then, the maid told him his afternoon snack was chocolate cream puffs. Vivi was instantly delighted. "Okay, after testing the lust, I'll eat those cream puffs." But 3 hours later, he discovered the soil and water wouldn't mix. So this earth can't be used for building. Vivi threw down his small shovel and squatted down dejected. Having come from Earth, he was completely unfamiliar with the properties of this soil. "What can I do without blueprints?" "I'll take out the necklace Dad gave me." Before, he had the wind elf to consult, but now it was broken. Suddenly, Vivi noticed something odd about the necklace. The gem summoned a spirit named Sylph. So why isn't it called Sylph's Protection? Instead, it's called the Spirit's Protection. Could there be other spirits living inside? If that's true, then the change in the gem's color. Could it be that it's not broken, but its attribute has changed? Thinking it over, Vivi felt it made sense. What was the Earth Spirit's name again? Recalling the book of elf stories his father had given him, he suddenly shouted, "Terra, King of the Earth Spirits, appear." 3 seconds passed. Nothing happened. Vivi sighed. It was just wishful thinking. Besides, I don't have any magic power. How could I? Before he could finish his thought, the gem on the necklace suddenly emitted a golden light. Then a girl with brown hair and a dull yellow dress appeared. "I am Terra, King of the Earth Spirits. For what reason have I been summoned?" Vivi was stunned. He hadn't expected to actually summon an Earth Spirit King, but he seized the opportunity and quickly asked if there was any type of soil that was sticky when mixed with water but dried hard and difficult to break. Terra smiled slightly. "There are 3 types of soil that meet those conditions." Finally, there was hope for the earth problem. That evening, Vivi ate 2 extra bowls of rice. Just as she finished, a maid handed her a letter. The letter read, "Hello Vivi, it's Megina. Would you like to have afternoon tea with me tomorrow? I have something I want to tell you." This girl was something else. In order to secure a good life for herself, she went straight to Vivi, tears in her eyes. "Could you please let me stay at the Duke's mansion a little longer? A lot of people don't like me. I don't know why. I'm clearly trying my best to be nice to them, but I think you're special. You wouldn't dislike me, would you? Faced with such a pointed question, Vivi, being thin-skinned, couldn't bring herself to tell the truth. Just thinking about it made her toes curl. Megaina had said nasty things to Vivi the first time they met, and then later falsely accused her. Any normal person would dislike her. So, while comforting Megaina and telling her not to cry, Vivi explained that staying at the Duke's mansion was impossible. She didn't want to bother the Duke with such a trivial matter. Suddenly, Megaina started crying even louder. She began playing the victim, saying she was often abused at home. Don't you worry about me at all. Just as Vivi was about to lose her mind, a maid's voice came from behind. The maid announced that the lemon cakes were ready. Vivi felt like she'd been thrown a lifeline. As she left, she didn't forget to encourage Megaina, "You have to stay strong." Walking back to her room, Vivi made up her mind. Next time, she absolutely couldn't meet with Megaina just out of curiosity. Her family was definitely after the Duke's position. I must protect it for father, she thought. Thinking this, she unconsciously arrived in front of her father's study. Knocking on the door, she wanted to have dinner with him. "You said before that I could ask you for anything. I've decided what I want for my 3rd birthday present." The Duke paused. He asked his daughter, "What is it?" Vivi cautiously said, "Money." The Duke, being generous, asked, "How much do you want?" Vivi's voice became even quieter. "As much as you love me, father." Hearing this, the Duke sighed helplessly. His daughter was growing up and even using flattery to ask for money. Nevertheless, he called for a servant. "Send all the compensation money from the monster subjugation to Mrs. Room tomorrow. 30 billion should be enough to satisfy my daughter, right?" To make his daughter happy, the doting father casually gave 30 billion. "Send it to Mrs. Room tomorrow morning. If it's not enough, just tell me." This was just the appetizer. He had a bigger gift for his beloved daughter as a belated birthday present. Vivi hadn't expected her father to be so generous. She became even more determined not to let him down. The next morning, the 3-year-old girl instantly transformed into an 18-year-old. Ever since discovering the ring's magical ability to change her size, she was getting better and better at switching. Then she went to the Workers' Guild, essentially a job market, intending to hire some workers. She needed them to prepare the materials for building the house. You go cut down trees. You go find straw. You go find mushroom skins. With these, she would have the essential components for a thatched cottage. Vivi's insistence on building a house wasn't just to provide temporary shelter for the wet nurse whose house had collapsed. He still wanted to gradually progress from a thatched cottage to a stilt house, and then to a large villa. Originally, in his past 2 lives, he was an architect. If he could apply this knowledge to today, 100 years later, perhaps he could help his father better develop the territory and prevent house collapses due to severe weather. The people of the territory were injured. After arranging for those people, Vivi took out the necklace her father had given her. Recently, she had also understood the mystery within it. The last time she summoned the Earth Elemental King, she learned that a beacon of fire was contained within. 4 elemental kings of earth and water. What was unexpected was that, without any magic power, she could summon all the elemental kings at will without signing a contract, and they became good friends. With the help of the elemental kings, her house progressed rapidly day by day, but constantly running back and forth exhausted her. One day, she was sleeping in. A maid came to urge her, "Miss, please get up. You have to eat lunch with the Baron and Baroness. They are about to leave. We can't be late." At this time, the Baron's family at the dining table had long been waiting impatiently. Because there were no adults around, the little girl was ganged up on by a group of people. They were her father's relatives, but they were always thinking about how to steal her father's property. The little girl was angry and retorted a few words in response to their taunts. Unexpectedly, a woman stood up and wanted to hit her. Fortunately, her father arrived at the scene. Vivi looked at them and didn't make a fuss about what had just happened. "Hurry up and eat. Hurry up and leave. They're leaving today anyway." Suddenly, she glanced at a glass. Looking at the orange inside, it looked very delicious. Noticing her gaze before she could reach for it, her father picked up the glass. "I'll hold it for you. I'll feed you. Your little hands can't hold it." She thought she was about to be drowned in this overflowing fatherly love. Although she wanted her father to restrain himself a little, she obediently brought her mouth to the glass. Under her father's unwavering gaze, she finished the large glass. The Baron's family on the side were stunned. "He spoils her so much." Seeing everyone staring at his precious daughter drinking, the Duke asked the Baron sternly, "Is there a problem?" The Baron quickly shook his head and then nodded. "Brother, about the money I asked to borrow. Hearing this, the Duke immediately interrupted him. Seeing that begging for money wasn't working, the Baron thought of a plan. He started to whine, saying that things weren't easy for him either. His children were growing up, and he didn't even have money for their schooling. The Baron intended this to be a pitiful ploy, but before he could finish, Megina suddenly spoke up. I don't want to go to the academy. I'd rather be a maid in the Duke's castle. I like Vivi, so I want to stay by her side. In truth, Megina had already seen through it. Staying with her family had no future. Only by staying in the Duke's castle did she have a future. She then asked Vivi, "You said I was good, didn't you?" Before his daughter could speak, the Duke's expression darkened. "I wouldn't trust my daughter to unqualified people." He declared that he would cover all of Megina's future tuition, but lending money was out of the question. At this moment, the butler approached. "Duke, the second birthday gift that His Grace prepared for his daughter has arrived. A limited edition Maserati carriage." Someone was bragging that their carriage was made of gold. Vivi's doting father immediately commissioned one. A Maserati carriage. The accessories were all made of red diamonds. A single Nicola red diamond is worth 10 billion. Looking at the priceless carriage, Vivi didn't understand its value. She just stared wide-eyed. The surrounding guards took out their cameras to take pictures. What boy doesn't dream of a Maserati? Sure enough, the chubby kid who had previously bragged about his self-driving carriage looked unhappy. His family finally left. But Vivi's father not only had the carriage custom-made, he also had the chef make his daughter carriage-shaped cookies. A carriage sculpture and carriage-themed dishes perfectly interpreted what it meant to be rich and luxurious. Riding in a Maserati for the first time, Vivi was surprised that the doors opened automatically. She exclaimed how comfortable it was, but she was worried about her father's extravagance. She worried that her spendthrift father would squander the family fortune. The Duke smiled slightly. "As long as you like it, I'll even pick the stars from the sky for you." After that, Vivi began a life of being a big baby during the day and building houses at night. Meanwhile, the little boy she had saved was moved to another location because the cursed magic on him was too powerful. His existence could be said to be the future of the country, but it could also bring about its destruction. So, many people wanted him, but didn't want him to wake up. At this moment, he felt as if he were in darkness, unable to find the light, until a pair of hands appeared. "Nice to meet you. I'm Vivi. If you can get out of here, I'll buy you lots of delicious food." After saying this, the girl turned to leave. This was the first time he felt warmth. "Don't go. Don't leave me like this." With a strong desire to see her again, the sleeping boy awoke. Looking at the strangers surrounding him, he asked warily, "Who are you?" He just had to say a name to the necklace, and an elemental king would appear. After summoning all the elemental kings, he could use the power of the elements without the necklace. The girl called upon the Earth Elemental King, Terra, through the necklace, hoping he would help her dig a 3-story deep hole. Terra didn't hesitate and cast a spell. With a loud rumble, a hole was easily created. Vivi was very satisfied with this. She rolled up her sleeves and was ready to start working. But Terra suggested, "Why don't you try summoning the other elemental kings? Perhaps because you're the first person to arrive, they are all very curious about you." But the young girl felt a little embarrassed and said she didn't need the other elemental kings for now. However, seeing that Terra seemed quite distressed, and hearing that after summoning all the elemental kings, she could use their power without the restriction of a sacred object, Vivi decided to summon the other 3 elemental kings. They were the omnipresent water elemental king, the passionate fire elemental king, and the energetic wind elemental king. Watching all the elemental kings gathered in front of her, chattering amongst themselves, Vivi said with a pained expression, "I'm so sorry. My head hurts whenever you speak." Upon hearing this, the 3 great elf kings fell silent. They had no choice but to temporarily defer to Vivi. Vivi then, with Silver's help, located the plumber he had previously consigned the short pieces to. He generously paid 500 Gene up front, wanting the plumber to help with a special project. As long as the water storage device was placed higher than the houses, even without advanced technology, the daily water needs of the citizens could be met, and this project needed to begin immediately. He had to hurry and complete it within 3 weeks, because the next morning, the maid told him that his nanny and another maid would be returning soon. They had written, worried that after such a long time, Vivi would forget them. How could that be? Vivi immediately took the maid's hand and said earnestly, "You are very important to me now. Didn't we promise to share delicious food together for life?" It was precisely because of Vivi's love for everyone around him that they could always feel his warmth. The maid couldn't help but hug Vivi tightly. "It's truly fortunate to be your maid." But unexpectedly, just as the maid left Vivi's room, a few uninvited guests arrived. "We found a solution to your headache," a man asked a 3-year-old child. "How do you turn one gold coin into 1,000 gold coins in the shortest amount of time?" He seemed to want to teach the child before him how to do business, but in reality, he was intentionally making things difficult. As long as Miss Vivi couldn't answer this question, he would have a way to get out of his position as tutor. A few days ago, Vivi's father had approached him and suddenly told him that he had found him a tutor. This person, although acquainted with famous merchant groups, was also a swindler who liked to scheme. If it weren't for the fact that he had swindled a noble this time, causing the Duke's family to lose face, he wouldn't have been punished by the Duke to be the young lady's tutor. But the night before the lesson, Vivi's father told Vivi that although this man was insidious and cunning, he was also talented, and Vivi could learn a lot from him. He was loyal to the Duke's family, but he was also arrogant and often bullied and suppressed those less intelligent than him. Despite this, Vivi's father still hoped they could, that she was a genius. He couldn't let him see those formulas. Sure enough, on the first day of class, Badrick gave Vivi a hard time. He assigned her a task as an assessment test. Although Vivi disliked his bullying manner, she remembered her father's words and deliberately appeared weak in front of the tutor. While preparing for the task, Vivi secretly worked on the house project every night. Everything was proceeding smoothly, but she kept feeling like she had forgotten something. Then she remembered Badrick's assigned task. She only remembered that he had asked her to find a way to turn one gold coin into 1,000 gold coins. It was clear he didn't want to teach a 3-year-old. Actually, even if he refused to teach her, it wouldn't matter. She would rather return to her former life of leisure and enjoyment. But this time, she didn't want to disappoint her father, so she made special preparations in advance. On the day of the lesson, the Duke, uncharacteristically, came to observe his daughter's lesson. This was precisely what Badrick wanted. He assumed Miss Vivi would certainly not have completed the task, and he could take the opportunity to tell the Duke that the young lady was too young to receive an education. But unexpectedly, Vivi came prepared. She not only considered the time dimension, but also the feasibility, proposing 2 solutions: stockpiling grain and buying lottery tickets. But neither met the teacher's requirement of efficiency. In the end, his solution was to go to the Duke. He acted spoiled and asked his father to solve it. Having his father there gave him the ultimate confidence. The 3-year-old went to bed early every day just so he could sneak out in the middle of the night to build a house. Seeing him sleeping earlier and earlier, the maid couldn't help but wonder, could it be that he's not sleeping at night and sneaking out to play? Vivi immediately denied it, but he had to admit he'd been working too hard lately. With the help of the elves, he not only laid down the rainproof goblin hide, but also figured out how to make roof tiles. However, he had to keep all of this a secret from Maid. Vivi could only lie and say it was because he was entering hibernation. The maid also noticed that Vivi had been eating a lot recently. But eating and then sleeping isn't good for digestion, she said, suggesting he drink some vinegar. That stuff was awfully nasty. Vivi suggested they take a walk in the hallway instead. Passing by a window, he discovered something unexpected. Although he could hear how cold it was outside, the hallway was very warm. The maid told him it was because the Duke's castle was enchanted to be warm in the winter and cool in the summer. No wonder Vivi always wore his pajamas and didn't feel the cold at all while walking. Andante was indeed one of the 3 great ducal families that developed magical tools. If only the people outside the city could feel this warmth too, he thought. Suddenly, a fierce argument erupted in the distance. Filled with curiosity, Vivi couldn't help but peek. He discovered it was actually Badrick and Baron Jaren. To make matters worse, Jaren, sounding impatient, said, "How dare you spit in the hallway? As a baron, this is basic etiquette. It seems I need to tell father about." Thought about him meeting with Badrick. He completely forgot they were currently eavesdropping. Seeing Badrick about to walk towards them, the maid scooped up Vivi at the critical moment. Thanks to the maid's invisibility spell, they narrowly escaped. The maid knew they had always been at odds, but she didn't expect them to be arguing in the Duke's mansion. Sensing new gossip, Vivi couldn't let it go. He pestered the maid to tell him. It turned out that 4 years ago, Badrick had swindled half of Jaren's family fortune. He even mocked him, saying, "What good is money to a beast like you?" Vivi couldn't believe that Badrick could still work for his father after doing such a thing. But then he thought there must be a reason why his father still kept him around. Since the person arguing was Baron Jaren, he would pretend he hadn't seen anything for now. After all, he was very likely one of Baron Adagio's men. Remembering that an important day was just a few days away, he had to go to bed early and work overtime to finish. He was only 3 years old, and to thank his nanny for her care, he decided to give her a house. He didn't expect that the newly built house would shock the entire duchy. Early in the morning, a soldier came to report that on the site of Vivi's nanny, Alyssa's collapsed homestead, a new house had suddenly appeared. There were even blueprints inside. It turned out that the house had been officially completed last night. Looking at the brand new 2-story building, he thought it was absolutely beautiful. Although it took a bit of time, he had finally finished it before his nanny returned. Just as he was about to leave, Vivi ran into Mr. Erickson. It was his first time witnessing the birth of a new house. Vivi ran into Mr. Erickson. He was witnessing the creation of a new house for the first time. "I'm so moved I could cry." The little architect wasn't lying. He really can build houses. Ever since 100 years ago, after a certain tyrant executed all the architects, building materials vanished completely. People were so afraid they didn't even dare build their own homes. But now we have Vivi, this genius architect. He took out the house blueprints he'd prepared earlier and placed them inside the house. As long as this letter and the blueprints reach Father's hands, then those without homes can also build safe houses. Yesterday morning, Vivi actually slept in. The maid didn't even wake him up. He later learned that something big had happened in the Duke's territory. Apparently, a beautiful new house suddenly appeared on his nanny's land. Hearing everyone describe his work like that, Vivi couldn't help but smile. If there are no problems, this house should become Nanny's new home. Vivi specifically went to see his father to confirm, worried about revealing his identity. At first, Vivi only dared to inquire about the new house. Learning that his father was still investigating how the house appeared, he cautiously asked, "Once the investigation is over, the house will belong to Nanny, right?" He received a negative answer. Nanny couldn't move in yet. Vivi immediately asked why she couldn't move in. Fortunately, his father simply said the house didn't have any furniture. Nanny's family couldn't just sleep on the floor. Vivi was relieved. He had completely forgotten about the furniture. Taking advantage of this opportunity, Vivi offered to buy furniture as a gift for Nanny. The Duke smiled, thinking it was a good idea. His precious daughter, so young and already grateful and generous. Truly a kind child. But before Vivi left, his father gave him some bad news. "Badrick seems to have noticed how intelligent you are. Other children are still breastfeeding at 3, but at 3 you build a house. Anyone would be surprised. No one would expect a little architect to appear in a place where no new buildings have been built for 100 years. Seeing everyone's delighted reactions, Vivi was happy, but what his father had just told him, that his genius might have been exposed, worried him, because Badrick not only came to the Duke to fish for information, but also gave him a particularly difficult new assignment regarding the surplus goblin leather problem in Ibbleton. He needed to propose a solution. This was clearly not a topic a 3-year-old could discuss, because goblin leather was originally a material used in construction. In a country where no new buildings have been built for a century, the demand for it is very low. Vivi racked his brains, but couldn't think of a good solution. But unexpectedly, the answer soon presented itself. His father quickly arranged for him to meet with a furniture craftsman. Vivi took out the furniture designs he had drawn, although the drawings were more than a little rough. At least the general shapes were discernible. However, upon hearing Vivi's request for all the furniture to be made of leather, the craftsman hesitated. Although leather furniture is luxurious and durable, it's become difficult to find leather suitable for sofas recently. Ever since our country stopped trading with the Elven Kingdom, which exports sofa leather, the amount of leather traded in the market has drastically decreased. If we transport it from the capital, it will take 3 months, and fabric sofas are not stain resistant and are difficult to clean. Vivi suddenly thought of a suitable material and suggested to the craftsman, "How about trying to use goblin leather, which is used for construction, to make sofas?" Goblin leather is not only waterproof, but also durable and inexpensive. If this can be done, the furniture industry will definitely see great development. Along with that, Vivi felt that her own assignment had also been solved. Using this method should be enough to solve the problem of the goblin leather surplus. but she still felt that this was not enough. She also happened to learn that the Kingdom of Schlatzel is a rainy island nation. This information would definitely be useful. A few days later, the big meeting arrived. Today was the day to make decisions about house construction. Vivi was prepared to use the knowledge she had learned in the past few days to show off her skills at the meeting. But she went to the kitchen first, because 100 years ago, a tyrant killed all the architects. So no new buildings had appeared in this country since then. Now a new house had appeared out of nowhere, complete with blueprints inside. Everyone was worried that the blueprints were a trap. Although the drawings looked perfect and the prices marked on them were very low, the ministers of the Duke's city were still arguing endlessly. The housing problem was a big trouble for Ibbleton. Refugees who had lost their homes had formed robber gangs, causing considerable losses to merchant groups. Although no one knew where the blueprints came from, according to public opinion polls, the residents were all looking forward to being able to build their own houses. Therefore, the Duke proposed to build in 3 locations first as a trial. But everyone started discussing where the best trial locations would be. At this moment, the door of the meeting room was suddenly pushed open. Vivi walked in carrying a basket of cookies. "Father, these are the cookies I made. Enjoy them while they're hot." Someone reminded her that they were in a meeting. But to ensure that the house building plan was finalized, Vivi decided to go all out. She put on an innocent look and asked her father, "Did I interrupt you? I brought these because I was afraid everyone would be hungry during the meeting." Hearing this, the Duke's face instantly darkened. He glared at his daughter. Everyone immediately fell silent. Turning back, the Duke's expression changed instantly. "Don't worry, you didn't interrupt us." The Duke then lifted Vivi onto his lap and continued to discuss the arrangements for the construction personnel. But everyone was struggling. If all the soldiers went to build houses, who would defend the Duke's city? Vivi didn't expect these adults to think the same way she did. They didn't seem to know how to be flexible. Vivi couldn't stand it anymore and decided to take charge of the meeting. She turned to her father and asked, "Does building houses have to be done by the knight uncles?" "Not necessarily, but this work is very hard, so it requires a lot of people. In order to quickly gather manpower, we arranged for the knights to go." Vivi said puzzledly, "Then why not hire those uncles who don't have jobs?" "I learned a bit about goblin leather recently. I heard that goblin hunters are facing serious unemployment. So why not let those strong hunter uncles build houses for you?" The 3-year-old child only said one sentence, and the man in front of her knelt down, tears streaming down his face, shouting from now on, "You are my master." A few days ago, Badrick assigned a second task: how to solve the problem of the goblin leather surplus. This was clearly not a question for a 3-year-old. But coincidentally, while Vivi was having furniture custom made, she learned about the properties of goblin leather and its suitability for furniture making. She also heard about an island nation where it rained constantly, which sparked her inspiration. She asked her father for permission to leave the palace. After much pleading, he finally agreed. She could go out, but only accompanied by her maids and 3 bodyguards. They first went to her nanny's house. Along the way, they listened to the townspeople discussing the construction of new houses. It seemed everyone was looking forward to living in their new homes. Seeing the village full of vitality, Vivi felt a sense of satisfaction. She arrived at her nanny's house. Although she had built the house herself, this was the first time she had seen it in daylight. She couldn't help but exclaim, "It's so beautiful." The house was filled with townspeople who had come to see it. Before the nanny returned, the house was open for viewing. The interior was fully furnished, complete with everything from furniture to toiletries. After a brief look at the house, Vivi hurried to the market. She noticed her clothes were tattered and worn. She went into a dress shop. A child who was shopping with her older sister picked out a dress for her as a gift. Although the maid repeatedly declined, they couldn't refuse the insistent shopkeeper. A good businesswoman wouldn't turn down such good fortune from a thoughtful little sister. Vivi was then ushered into the fitting room. While the maid was trying on clothes, Vivi asked the shopkeeper, "Can clothes be made from any material?" After receiving an affirmative answer, she made an unusual request. So, in class the next day, regarding the issue of the goblin leather surplus, Vivi revealed her winning strategy. She had commissioned the dress shop owner to deliver it to the classroom. It was a raincoat and rain boots. Vivi had discovered that goblin leather was very waterproof, so she used this property to create rainwear. Vivi had also done market research. She suggested the Strahl Kingdom as a test market because it rained there constantly, yet they lacked effective waterproofing. Vivi even suggested that if they wanted to truly solve the problem, they couldn't ignore the markets of other countries. Badriel was stunned. He immediately knelt down and kowtowed to Vivi. "Please, take me as your disciple." This girl was only 3 years old, and she had already established her own business. Although born into the immensely wealthy Duke's family, she insisted on making her own way. After the 2 class projects, Badriel mysteriously informed her of a matter of vital importance to the family's survival. In Ubladon, it was rare for a woman to become the head of the family. When Vivi was older, there would certainly be those who would try to push Adagio forward as the heir. Therefore, to ensure Vivi's victory in this struggle, she needed to start raising emergency funds now. But she was only 3 years old. Wasn't it too early? Badriel shook his head. The Duke's family may have many assets, but such a vast fortune, if it fell into enemy hands, would pose a tremendous threat. Moreover, no one knows when the enemy might strike. After listening, Vivi thought carefully and agreed. Her current peaceful life could be disrupted at any moment. Vivi asked Badriel, "So, how can you help me?" Badriel considered himself a shrewd businessman. A merchant's strength was the ability to perceive and predict change. "Can you help me establish a trading company? I need to make a year's worth of profit from these raincoats and rain boots." Badriel immediately knelt and declared his unwavering loyalty. "From now on, I'll be in your care, miss." 3 years passed in a blink. Vivi was about to celebrate her 7th birthday. Her nanny combed her hair while reminiscing. "Time flies. You've grown from that frail child out into such a dignified and lovely young lady." Vivi hadn't been idle during these years. At the age of 3, she and Badriel co-founded the Elisilla Company. Now, this secretly established company that had firmly established itself in the Schlazel Kingdom. The company had been exporting raincoats and rain boots to countries all over the world. In addition to this, Vivi hadn't neglected her architectural studies. On this day, Badriel announced that all her lessons were complete. She could now attend social gatherings. Badriel was reluctant, but Vivi had an important task for him. "We should start other ventures now, shouldn't we?" At only 7 years old, she was already worth 70 billion. Relying on her clever mind, she collaborated with her tutor, keeping a secret from her family. She founded a company at 3 and became the Raincoat Queen at 7. Now, she had her sights set on a new business opportunity. For the past 3 years, the Duke had been undertaking construction projects. In the future, the scope of construction was expected to expand nationwide. Her father intended to make the house designs public. Vivi quickly caught on to the business opportunity. She asked Badriel, "If you wanted to use this information to get a head start, where would you begin?" "I would secure the blacksmith, Erickson, and his apprentice, Quan." Vivi nodded, but asked if he had any better suggestions. "After the houses are built, they'll definitely need furniture. Initially, the supply should be focused on our own needs. This will create a backlog, leading to months-long waiting lists." Badriel suggested securing the furniture makers. Vivi couldn't help but sigh. The current domestic furniture materials are extremely inadequate. Without materials, it doesn't matter how many craftsmen there are. Badriel admitted he'd learned another valuable lesson. Vivi decided to visit the furniture stores herself to investigate. She instructed Badriel to find out the quantity of materials that used within the Duke's territory over the past 3 years, and then order 10 times that amount. Badriel was shocked. That's a massive quantity. The entire nation's population isn't even 10 times that of the Duke's territory. Fortunately, we can store the materials in the company warehouse. But Vivi countered, "No, we must keep some space free in the warehouse." Vivi didn't elaborate, simply instructing him to prepare everything. Afterward, she had etiquette lessons to attend. Elisa would be her etiquette instructor, teaching her the necessary knowledge for social gatherings. In a while, she would be visiting Count Eret's house. A social gathering would be held there as her coming-out party. Therefore, she had to master etiquette and avoid any blunders. But her most pressing concern was Love Day approaching again. Last year, due to an oversight, she hadn't prepared a gift for her father, which had upset him for quite some time. She thought she could slack off this year since he wasn't in the capital, but then a maid handed her an envelope. Her father was returning soon. To appease her tyrannical father, Vivi frantically prepared Valentine's Day gifts overnight, and not just for him. The next morning, she mysteriously told her maids, "Go open the drawer by my bed. I put Valentine's Day gifts inside." The maids immediately went to check, and were all pleasantly surprised. Even Badriel received one, delicious enough to bring him to tears. After giving the maids and Badriel their gifts, Vivi rushed straight to her father's room. She pushed open the door and threw herself into his arms. The two hadn't seen each other for a month. The first thing her father said was, "I'm sorry I'm late." Although her father's expression was still indifferent, Vivi knew he was the type to be cold on the outside, but warm on the inside. Happily, she told him about the gift she had prepared and presented her proud creation. It was a Valentine's Day gift she made herself. When he opened it, he found the shapes were uniquely crafted. Vivi told him they were ladyfingers. Because of their elongated shape, they were also called finger biscuits. Vivi had even coated them in dark chocolate. Her father couldn't help but exclaim, "My darling daughter, it's your first time, yet you managed to make something so delicious." Truly an all-around genius. He, too, had prepared a gift. He took out the box, and Vivi's eyes widened. Then, she worried, thinking her father had spent too much money again. Because her father's Valentine's Day gift to her was a diamond ring called Mermaid's Tear. Its value was enough to buy an entire magic stone mine. Furthermore, the ring possessed a strong magic-enhancing effect. Although Vivi was grateful, she also felt how poor she was compared to the ducal house. To prepare for future contingencies, she was diligently amassing funds. So, recently, she had started managing furniture stores and other new businesses. But putting aside these financial burdens, she felt incredibly fortunate to have a father who always looked out for her. Her father chuckled and said, "You should get used to it." He then personally placed the ring on her finger. He reminded her, "This ring has a protective spell on it. You must wear it at all times. Just thinking about you going to Count Aerith's house makes me feel like someone is stealing you away from me. So you must wear it and protect yourself." In reality, Vivi was only leaving for a month, but because her father was worried, he not only sent the knight commander and the captain of the guard to escort her, but also cast a defensive spell on the carriage. Combined with the mermaid's tears protection, it was a bit excessive. His 7-year-old darling was going on her first trip away from home, and her father made 3 rules with her. 1. Always take bodyguards wherever she goes. 2. Never do anything that would worry him. 3. Never smile at strangers. If any strange person approached, she was to sternly warn them, "If you don't want to lose your head, disappear from my sight immediately." Vivi repeated it, but she looked so adorable it was almost criminal. It seemed this method wouldn't work. Vivi thought her father was being a bit overprotective. She asked for a hug and reassured him, telling him to relax. "I'll be back in a month." Seeing that it was getting late, for safety's sake, the knights forcibly separated the two. Vivi bid her father farewell through the carriage window. "See you in a month." Although she knew a month wasn't long, Vivi already felt a little homesick as they set off. The journey was long. Vivi could only lie in the carriage with nothing to do. That day, she was troubled by the lack of manpower to transport her furniture materials. After all, it was a business she had secretly started, so she didn't dare ask her father for help. Just as she was racking her brains about where to find laborers, the carriage suddenly lurched violently. Fortunately, thanks to the Wind Spirit King's protection, she was unharmed. At this moment, a knight came to warn Vivi. "Miss, you absolutely must not leave the carriage. We've encountered bandits. A group of bandits lying in ambush here." They saw Vivi's luxurious carriage from afar and immediately swarmed to rob it. Fortunately, the knights and the captain of the guard are escorting us. The bandits were quickly subdued. The convoy was unharmed. Vivi got out of the carriage to inquire about the bandits. She learned that these people were also forced to join the bandit group because they had no way to earn a living. "If we were given a chance, we would definitely find honest work." The vice captain, Vincent, who led them, explained that he used to live in Duke Ondante's territory as a hunter. But for several years, he had no income and had to stop working. Afterward, his house collapsed and he became homeless. He could only wander around and eventually join the bandit group, resorting to dishonest means. It seems he has also suffered. "I can't stand idly by. You just said that if given a chance, you would find honest work, right?" The bandits immediately nodded frantically. "I just happen to have a place that needs you." Vivi waved her hand. "Work under me. I will provide you with food and lodging for a year. We try to work hard. There will even be bonuses if you do well." The bandits began to murmur amongst themselves. They were grateful that Vivi spared their lives and was even willing to give them work. She was like an angel. They drank rainwater when thirsty and ate sour, stale bread when hungry. A 3-year-old girl lived like a beggar. But after meeting her father, the Duke, her life changed drastically. He even spent hundreds of millions to prepare the world's most luxurious car for her. But the original reason for buying the car was because her mother's family wanted to invite Vivi for a visit. However, Vivi was only 3 years old at the time and too young, so the Duke declined Count Eret's invitation. He also clarified Vivi's misunderstanding about the Count's family. It wasn't that they hadn't tried to contact her. After Siena's funeral, a natural disaster struck Count Eret's territory. They had been busy dealing with the aftermath. Upon hearing that the Duke had found Vivi, the Count's family was shocked and immediately planned a visit. But the Duke, claiming the child needed stability, temporarily refused them. Because at the time, the Duke was afraid Vivi would leave his home. The members of Count Eret's family treated each other very warmly. The family was harmonious. This was very different from the Duke's household. Vivi immediately expressed that she loved the Duke's mansion very much and wanted to stay there forever because everyone there was warm to her. So, the Duke waited until Vivi was 7 years old to restart the plan to visit Count Eret's family. Arriving at her mother's birthplace for the first time, Vivi was so excited that she looked around everywhere. Just as she got out of the carriage, she saw her uncle and aunt coming to greet her. Although it was Vivi's first time at the Count's mansion, she felt exceptionally comfortable. The Count's family dispatched the head maid, Dahlia, to attend to her. She had worked at the Count's mansion for 40 years and had been Siena's personal maid since Siena was 6 years old. She was the one who watched Siena grow up. The room arranged for Vivi was also the room Siena had once lived in. Seeing the ring of Siena on Vivi's hand, Dahlia felt like she was seeing her young mistress again. "You really look exactly like Siena." Dahlia then told her about Siena's death during her childhood. The people at the Duke's mansion were probably worried she'd be upset, so they never told her about her mother. But as she grew older, she gradually wanted to know more about her mother. After her bath, seeing the sky still bright, Vivi offered to visit the Count's mansion. This place was also known as the House of Wind. Every autumn, the maple leaves here were exceptionally beautiful. Vivi also saw the training grounds at the Count's mansion. At the Duke's mansion, due to her father's overprotectiveness, she had been forbidden from entering. This time, she could finally see the spirited training. Unexpectedly, she met an old acquaintance here. The 7-year-old girl simply called out sweetly, "Aunt." She was treated like a daughter, not only assigned the most experienced maid in the house, but even her meals were prepared according to her preferences. After meeting her aunt in person, Vivi found her to be even kinder than she had imagined, completely different from Baroness Adagio. Vivi asked her aunt to call her Vivi, instantly bringing them closer. Just then, the Count coughed twice, interrupting them. Shouldn't Vivi also meet the lady who will be her chaperone? A chaperone was someone who, in social circles, acted as a guardian for underage noble ladies. Her aunt had previously mentioned in a letter that she would invite 3 candidates to the mansion. But now he said, "Let's leave it for today. It's Vivi's first day here. It's best to relax, right?" Her aunt winked at Vivi, who immediately understood. She hadn't expected such kind and warm relatives. Vivi suddenly remembered she had a task. This was the Jingling-S blessing that the Count had lent her 3 years ago. Vivi specifically brought it to return it to its owner. "Thank you for making that difficult decision for me. Thanks to you both, I've been safe and sound." Vivi's understanding made her uncle and aunt feel guilty. As family, they hadn't been able to take care of her before. They had always felt bad about this. Vivi, not expecting the atmosphere to become so somber, quickly comforted them. "It's okay. You don't have to worry. I'm fine now, and it wasn't your fault." Although Vivi felt a little uncomfortable at first, as the conversation went on, she gradually relaxed. She even regretted not coming here sooner. The next day, her aunt approached Vivi to discuss the chaperone matter. She had mentioned 3 candidates in her letter before. Her aunt decided to describe their backgrounds in detail. The two chatted while they ate. Vivi took a sip of the tea in front of her and found the taste amazing. She quickly asked her aunt what kind of tea it was. She learned that it was Nebera tea, which had become popular in the capital a few months prior, a creation of the candidate, Countess Malton. Vivi realized this tea tasted different from what she had drunk in her first life. Upon learning that this tea was made with over-dried tea leaves, she was shocked. As far as she knew, if Nebera tea leaves were over-dried, they would produce trace amounts of toxins. Long-term consumption could have adverse effects on the body. If this tea was currently trending, wouldn't many people in the capital be in danger? Why would Countess Malton, promote such a dangerous tea? Other people paid for tea. She paid with her life. The girl simply took a sip of tea and unexpectedly uncovered a shocking secret of aristocratic society. It all started a few days ago. Vivi realized that behind the popularity of Nebra tea, lurked a huge conspiracy. She immediately asked her aunt for advice. About the older companion candidates. She learned that Countess Katrina, one of the candidates, came from a highly respected and historical family, but was extremely strict with everyone. She had a reputation for being very sharp, so her aunt didn't recommend her as an older companion. However, setting that aside, her aunt hoped Vivi would interact with her to some extent. Because of her vast knowledge, in aristocratic society, social circles were their political arena. No one could ignore the opinions of others. So, they decided to put Countess Katrina aside for now. The second candidate, Baroness Helopia, was a former knight and had earned military honors. Despite being a woman, she had earned a noble title. However, she had recently run into some trouble. It was said she had been abusing Baron Helopia, and he had filed for divorce. The case was currently under trial, but her aunt believed she was definitely not that kind of person. On the contrary, she felt her husband was the culprit. Although Baroness Helopia had overcome the limitations placed on women, and achieved great things, making her very respectable, Vivi still needed to consider carefully before meeting her. Finally, there was Countess Malton, her aunt's recommendation. She was skilled at socializing and had a wide network of contacts, making her a good choice. However, it was said she didn't like children. There were even rumors that this was why she didn't have any. Vivi had wanted to choose her, but the fact that she didn't like children, made it difficult for her to decide. That day, Vivi planned to mail a work-related letter. On the way, she sent her guard away under the pretense of needing help mailing the letter. Taking this opportunity, she went to a pharmacy and asked the owner if over-dried Nebra tea leaves could be brewed and drunk. The owner looked thoughtful and asked her, "Is there anyone around you who's planning to have children?" "Not really." "Then there's no problem." A noblewoman from a certain territory once used Nebra tea as a contraceptive. Vivi was shocked by this news. Did Countess Malton know this? In aristocratic society, children were a sensitive topic. Even if she disliked children, she wouldn't harm others, would she? The shopkeeper asked Vivi, "Do you know which noble made this tea popular?" "I'll tell you a secret." The girl simply did a reading comprehension exercise, and won everyone's praise. She hadn't expected that the template she used for the exam would actually help her climb the ranks of the nobility after her rebirth. That day was Vivi's first social debut. Early in the morning, Elisa and Dahlia styled her. 3 hours later, an adorable little princess was born. Although her aunt claimed that today's gathering was just a simple reading, the older companion candidates would also be present. Vivi was determined to make a good impression. For her debut, her aunt not only hosted the gathering, but also meticulously arranged the seating. During the entrance, Vivi saw the 3 legendary countesses. After the eldest, Countess Katrina, made her grand entrance, the reading officially began. The literary work to be read today was A Happy Day. The protagonist of the story was Hans, a carriage driver. It's quite bitter. Hans unexpectedly earned a lot of money that day. After finishing work, Hans thought of his sick wife at home. She had begged him not to go to work today, so he bought his wife's favorite broth. But when he returned home, his wife had already become a cold corpse. No wonder I was so lucky today. Vivi had heard this story in her first life. Suddenly, Countess Katrina asked Vivi, "What do you think of this story?" Vivi, bracing herself, recited the reading comprehension template. The line, "No wonder I was so lucky today," left a deep impression on me. Because of his wife's passing, today was actually his most unfortunate day. This sentence uses irony to further emphasize the tragic nature of the entire story. This immediately earned the praise of the ladies present, but drew jealousy from a nearby table. Unexpectedly, Countess Malton stood up. A well-bred noble should know the difference between critique and praise. She perfectly silenced the others, then kindly said to Vivi, "You spoke very well." She didn't seem to dislike children at all. During the intermission, Vivi noticed Countess Malton leave alone. She immediately asked her spirit to follow and confirm her whereabouts. She unexpectedly discovered that Countess Malton, who was rumored to dislike children, had been deeply misunderstood by everyone. In order for her own son to inherit the family title, this woman secretly gave her undried tea leaves while she was recovering from a miscarriage. This resulted in her not being able to conceive for over a decade. It wasn't until this secret was discovered by a 7-year-old girl that they learned. that Countess Malton, rumored to dislike children, had suffered a miscarriage more than 10 years ago. And after the miscarriage, she suffered from severe depression. At the time, her sister-in-law, Viscountess Sibelian, stayed by her side to comfort her. Later, due to her repeated failures to conceive during a break in a banquet, she suddenly received an anonymous letter. It said that drinking undried tea leaves had a contraceptive effect. The previous Countess Malton, after giving birth to the Count, began drinking this tea to prevent conflict between siblings. If you investigate the doctor who was dismissed from the house more than 10 years ago, you will learn the truth. Afterwards, Countess Malton indeed left the gathering early, citing illness. After returning home, she immediately sought out Viscountess Sibelian and declared that she and her son must leave, because she had already found the doctor who had been dismissed all those years ago. Although the doctor had passed away, his detailed medical records recorded the previous Countess Malton drinking the Nebra tea for contraception. Viscountess Sibelian knew about this, yet she recommended it to the Countess who had just miscarried, because as long as she remained childless, Viscountess Sibelian's son would become the heir. Seeing her scheme exposed, Viscountess Sibelian even dared to threaten the Countess. If this gets out, you won't be safe either. After all, you're the one who made this tea popular. But she didn't expect the Countess to be so ruthless. She had already written to the princess, reporting everything. As an apology, she would suspend her social activities for reflection. As a social leader, the princess would surely approve of this letter, and Viscountess Sibelian would be denounced by the Malton family. You should be grateful I showed you mercy. To ensure her own son's future inheritance, this woman bribed a pair of assassins. Under the cover of night, they were to kill the 7-year-old girl. Vivi had just fallen asleep that night when a group gathered outside the Earl's mansion. She woke suddenly, hearing someone calling her name. Turning her head, she saw the assassin standing by her bed, a knife slashing down towards her. Fortunately, the ring her father had given her had a protective enchantment. Realizing she had narrowly escaped death, Vivi quickly rolled out of bed. Then she heard the Elf King's warning. This space is controlled by magic. We cannot enter areas outside the natural world. Vivi, you must leave here quickly. Then the Elf King's voice abruptly cut off. Realizing the entire mansion was under magical control, Vivi decided to hide. But there was more than one assassin. Vivi was quickly discovered. Just as they were about to attack, a small figure suddenly burst into view. A fierce fight ensued with the assassins. The figure quickly subdued them. The entire mansion was controlled. How did this boy escape to save her? Just as Vivi was about to speak, the boy gestured for her to be silent. We should get out here first. They have a mage with them. Thanks to the boy leading the way, they finally escaped. At that moment, Vivi's Elf King reappeared. Everyone clamored for revenge. But the kind Vivi said, I'm all right now. Although she was still frightened, she was more grateful to the boy who had just saved her. Vivi threw herself into his arms. Thank you for saving me. I would be dead without you. You are my lifesaver. I will remember this forever. She had forgotten that she had once saved the boy too. Worried that the assassins hadn't gone far, Vivi and the boy slept against the courtyard wall for the night. Until the next morning, when her aunt and uncle, having learned of the previous night's events, rushed over to check on her. Thanks to this child, she was saved. But awkwardly, her uncle, upon learning of Vivi's disappearance, had already sent an urgent message to the Duke. Vivi knew that with her father's impulsive nature, he would rush over immediately. After inquiring about what had happened the previous night, her uncle confirmed that this was definitely attempted murder. But who was behind it remained unclear. Vivi suspected it was someone from Baron Adagio's family. After all, only if she were gone would they have a chance at the dukedom. At that moment, Vivi noticed the child sitting across from her. Why could he enter the magically controlled space? Could he also use magic? Upon hearing his daughter was missing, the Duke rode several horses to death through the night, traveling a great distance to ensure her safety. As soon as he arrived, his daughter threw herself into his arms. The Duke quickly checked Vivi for injuries. Thankfully, she was unharmed. The mermaid's tear, her Valentine's Day gift from her father, had blocked the assassin's blow. But the next second, Vivi suddenly fainted. Everyone around her panicked and called for a doctor. But Vivi, waking up, stopped them. I'm not that seriously ill. I'm just starving. The next second, Vivi was pushed to the dining table, where a feast of her favorite sweets was laid out before her. The Duke remarked, my daughter eats much more than most. But he didn't know the reason Vivi ate so much was because every night, I have to switch between being an adult and a child, so I'm always hungry. But I'm curious how you got here so fast. Father said he happened to be nearby. The Duke quickly changed the subject. I heard you saved my daughter. Is that right? What do you want? Vivi heard her father say this and immediately glared at him. Father was too rude to his savior. But then Father asked even more bluntly, how much money do you want? I didn't save her for money. The Duke suddenly felt a sense of threat, sensing the sparks flying between the two. Vivi quickly changed the subject. I have an appointment to visit Countess Malton tomorrow. What should I do? Her father and uncle said in unison, you are not going, and also thought it would be more appropriate for Countess Malton to come here. If I explain the reason, she will surely understand. After eating her fill, Vivi quickly became sleepy. Completely unaware that after coaxing her to sleep, her father privately sought out the boy who saved her. He asked him what he wanted in return. What can I give you? I can give you anything, whether it's money, fame, or anything else. Just name it. Even the throne you missed by mere seconds. But the boy said, I want to become stronger than I am now. This was his only wish. Such a simple wish. The Duke agreed immediately. A few days later, the day arrived for Vivi to meet with Countess Malton. Vivi apologized to Countess Malton as soon as they met. Fortunately, she was an understanding lady, and very intelligent as well. As soon as she sat down, she asked, was that letter at the banquet sent by you? It turned out that, unfamiliar with social etiquette, Vivi had made a big mistake. At a formal banquet hosted by someone, one does not send anonymous letters. With that, Countess Malton suddenly stood up and bowed deeply to Vivi. The Malton family owes you a great debt. If it weren't for you, my family might have been ruined without even knowing it. So, as long as it's within my power, I am willing to do anything for you. The Malton family will stand behind the Andante family, and I will stand by your side. The girl, at only 7 years old, has a personal fortune of 50 billion, all thanks to her elf-like mind and exceptional intelligence. That day, Vivi met with Patrick. As soon as they met, he inquired about Vivi's health and promised never to leave her side again. Although Vivi knew Patrick meant well, there was something more important than his concern for her health that she needed help with. She wanted Patrick to be her double, sharing her secret language. Patrick agreed without hesitation. I will do my utmost to keep your secrets. Vivi was very satisfied with his attitude, so she revealed that, in fact, 3.5 years ago, she was the one who built Elisa's house. Upon hearing this, Patrick thought it was simply unbelievable. Vivi was only 3 years old at the time, but after hearing the whole story, he found it acceptable. After all, Vivi had been incredibly intelligent since childhood. Vivi took out a map and explained her real purpose for today. She had originally intended to build a house in this area, but now, due to the attack, she couldn't go out. She hoped Patrick could carry out the project for her. Vivi had already sent Erickson to the Illy Inn. He could discuss matters concerning the necessary building materials and foundation work with him. Upon hearing the name of the famous plumber, Patrick exclaimed, were you also the one who invented the water tank? Vivi smiled slightly and nodded in agreement. But Erickson doesn't know it was my idea. I've always sent agents before, so you need to pay attention to this. Patrick nodded. I know. Vivi then revealed. He'd already thought of the third product for the trading company, a heated water blanket. Apparently, while explaining the heater to Erickson, he suddenly thought of letting those who already had houses experience the comfort of a heated room. Thus, he came up with the heated water blanket. From Patrick's letters, he learned that the wrinkled arm scales are waterproof and could be used to make hot water lines. And the insulating material to cover the blanket could be easily obtained in the market. Although using thermal magic would consume a lot of magic stones, they could sell this blanket at a high price to nobles. As for commoners with financial burdens, they could add only insulation magic to the blanket. The water to maintain the temperature only needs to be boiled in the fireplace. It wouldn't be that inconvenient to use. Truly a cost-effective product. After reading this, Patrick suddenly said, it's such a waste of time for me to stay here. He then stood up and started planning his work. A love for work is truly his nature. Vivi believed this blanket would be a big seller. It preys on the noble's vanity, and she would take this opportunity to expand the trading company and secure her position as heir to the Andante dukedom. To ruin her sister's reputation, this girl burst into tears in front of others, accusing her sister of playing tricks, which made her appear as an eccentric duchess's daughter in the eyes of others. That day, Vivi went with her uncle, an aunt to the Alancia Continental Academy, to visit her 2 cousins. However, she unexpectedly ran into Mechthild, the person she least wanted to see. learning that Vivi came to visit Count Eric's cousins. Mechthile burst into tears without a word, accusing Vivi of never replying to her letters. But coming to visit her cousins in person. I understand you're a duchess's daughter, and I'm just a baron's daughter. But Vivi, I'm really so heartbroken. Hearing Mechthile's cries, the onlookers also felt that Vivi was being unreasonable. Fortunately, Vivi already knew this girl well. She said with a straight face, "That's truly a pity. I haven't received any letters at all. Could it be that the Academy's mailroom misplaced them?" She then suggested they go together to confirm. Since there's a mailroom, there must be records. At this time, the onlookers still thought that the Duchess's daughter was shirking responsibility. They clamored, "All right, then let's go and confirm." With that, they escorted Mechthile towards the mailroom. Seeing her frustrated expression, Vivi knew that Mechthile hadn't expected this. She had read the school handbook and knew that incoming mail would be registered and managed. After sending Mechthile away, Vivi was about to leave when she bumped into a wall of a person. She was about to apologize when she looked up and saw the other person staring intently at her. But she couldn't understand what he was saying. Vivi put on her translation bracelet and realized the other person was a creep. This strange boy actually wanted to possess her. Vivi was about to make a run for it when her cousin Leon pulled her into a protective hug. Only then did she learn that the creepy boy in front of her was actually the first in line to the Berlin imperial throne. Crown Prince Victor. Vivi had heard of this Crown Prince before. He's very interested in new cultural products. He also makes a lot of investments. Even the rapidly growing trading company recently is gradually expanding thanks to his investment. Thinking of this, Vivi felt this was an opportunity. She proactively stepped forward to introduce herself to the Crown Prince. She thought to herself, I must make the most of him. Unexpectedly, after Victor heard she was from the Andante family, he bluntly called her father a vicious villain. Although she had heard such comments before, it was the first time Vivi had seen someone insult her father to her face. She couldn't help but burn with anger. At this moment, the Crown Prince realized his previous remark was rude. To make amends, he invited Vivi to attend his birthday banquet at the Imperial Palace. Vivi readily agreed. This birthday banquet was a good opportunity to expand her trading company. Other people who transmigrate eat, drink, and have fun. She, on the other hand, is different. At 3, she built houses. At 4, she established a trading company. At 6, she made hand warmers. At 7, she invented a genetic testing device. Even the best salespeople in the country couldn't keep up with her. They could only sleep every other day to try and stay on schedule. This day, Patrick excitedly told Vivi that he had created the hot water line she described. He had also invented a high-end hot water blanket. It could identify the user through hair recognition. It would definitely be a big seller among the nobles. But Vivi felt that such advanced technology was wasted on a hot water blanket. She suggested to Patrick that he use this method to conduct comparative experiments among relatives. Then, targeting the lineage-conscious noble society, he could create a genetic testing device. In addition, she thought they could use fingerprints to distinguish users because everyone's fingerprints are different. Vivi's erudition finally caught Patrick's attention. He wondered where a 7-year-old girl learned all this. Vivi was about to confess that she was reborn. Patrick suddenly exclaimed, "Could you have read the ancient book of the sage?" Vivi then smoothly covered up the truth. Seeing that the house she had commissioned Patrick to build was nearing completion, she planned to sneak a peek during the final stages. On the way, Vivi suddenly suggested, "Why don't we discuss the development with Father? Trading companies usually entrust development to Moda, but I don't want to reveal the genetic idea to Moda, so I hope Patrick can persuade Father to use our own family's magicians for research and development." After seeing the satisfactory progress of the house, Vivi only had 4 days left before leaving Peak House. That day, she received a letter. It was a reply from Lady Valletta. Since it was inconvenient for Vivi to visit in person, she wanted to ask if Lady Valletta could visit Ducal City. For such a long journey, Vivi should invite her whole family. But considering that she and her husband were separated, it would be too troublesome. Moreover, Vivi's 7th birthday was approaching, and she hadn't chosen an older female companion yet. Her aunt even offered to take the role herself. But Vivi still hoped to meet with Lady Valletta. Afterward, she should be able to make a decision. She was only 7 years old, and she already had 2 nights wholeheartedly devoted to protecting her. Ever since Vivi was attacked in Islington, the Duke had vowed to find the culprit. That night, he took a boy to the largest assassins guild in Islington and annihilated the entire place. Before dying, the guild assassins, to save their own lives, offered to cooperate and reveal the mastermind behind the attack. But they still couldn't escape death. Because he said the woman was from the Gizani family, around 25 years old. The Duke immediately remembered the woman who abused Vivi 3 years ago. It was the Gizani Baron's family. Without a second thought, that he confronted the guild leader, because the culprit wasn't from the Gizani Baron's family at all. After that incident, he had been investigating information about the Gizani family, but he never received any news of them taking action. So the Duke concluded the leader was lying. He turned his head and asked the boy watching, "Do you think we should spare the leader's life?" The boy firmly said, "No, but I think it's necessary to interrogate him thoroughly to confirm the truth." The Duke said, "You're still too naive for an assassin leader who already knows he's going to die. Even if we torture him, he won't tell the truth." So the Duke killed him. It was also a warning to others. "I want to tell everyone that anyone who threatens my daughter's life will only end up dead." Afterwards, the Duke told the boy, "You said you wanted to become stronger, right? Then you need to become more cold-blooded and ruthless. Emotions will only become your weakness." Soon, it was time for Vivi to leave Peak House. That day, she was discussing her 7th birthday with her aunt. Suddenly, the boy appeared behind her, startling her. The boy asked unhappily, "Why didn't you tell me your birthday was coming up?" Vivi was also helpless. She hadn't seen him recently, so when would she have had the chance to tell him? Vivi took the opportunity to ask about his birthday. She found this boy very strange. He didn't even know his own birthday or name. "Then why don't you just give me a name?" Suddenly receiving such an important task, Vivi was also startled. But perhaps this was a good opportunity to make him one of her own. Vivi thought for a moment. "From today onwards, how about you be called Aster?" The boy murmured the name to himself a few times. The corners of his elongated eyes revealed his happiness. "I like this name. Then you can also set my birthday." Vivi thought, "Why not today? How about today?" Aster readily agreed. "I will never forget the name and birthday you gave me." The girl's first invitation to the boy to become her husband was met with a verbal refusal, only because the other party still had bigger dreams to chase. Seeing that Vivi was going back to the Duke's territory tomorrow, she specially went to the training ground before leaving to say her final goodbye to Aster, but she accidentally saw him take off his headgear, suddenly feeling very familiar. Noticing Vivi's arrival, Aster quickly put on his hat and asked her what was the matter. Hearing Vivi say she was leaving tomorrow, Aster became very downcast. But then Vivi offered, "If you're willing, come with me to the Duke's mansion. Our family really appreciates talented people." Aster didn't speak. A moment later, he asked, "Well, I also like smart and strong people. How about it? Will you come with me?" Thinking that with their friendship, Aster would agree, she didn't expect him to hesitate for a moment and then refuse directly. "I won't go." Vivi felt completely rejected. She quickly asked him for his reason. She learned that Aster was going to the Academy's construction department to study in 2 months. He wants to learn many things there, then become strong. "I want to conquer the world." Such a lofty dream shocked Vivi. To conquer the world, it requires not only strength, but also the help of information guilds and merchant groups. But Aster doesn't seem to have considered these. Vivi remembered that next January, she would go to the Empire to attend Crown Prince Victor's birthday banquet. The two agreed to meet again then. Just then, a gentle breeze blew by. It made Aster stare blankly. A moment later, he took a leaf off Vivi's head. "I'll wait for you." At this time, Vivi still considered it a childish promise. She only hoped he would remember this moment. On the day of her return to the Duke's city, everyone from Peak House came to see Vivi off. Vivi unexpectedly spotted Aster in the crowd. She quickly waved. With the effect of the Guanyu magic scroll, she returned to the Duke's territory almost instantly. Although she knew her father had bought this expensive item, so he wouldn't miss her birthday, Vivi still felt it was too extravagant. However, the moment she opened her eyes, she saw her father standing before her, waiting for her return along with everyone else. Vivi couldn't help but rush into her father's arms. As soon as she got home, she asked her father for permission to go to the Empire in January to attend Crown Prince Victor's birthday banquet. Upon hearing this, her father refused without a second thought. He hadn't expected flies to be buzzing around Vivi at such a young age. But Vivi didn't want to miss the opportunity to secure an investment from the crown prince. She acted coquettishly. "Father, didn't you promise me? You said you would definitely go to the Empire with me next time. I've never traveled alone with you." The barrage of coquettishness proved too much for the Duke to resist, and he immediately relented. But before going to the Empire, she had an important task: to hold a grand birthday banquet. A certain man called his 4-year-old son, who couldn't lie, stupid. This man called him stupid. Not only did he verbally abuse him regularly, but he also slandered his own wife. To prepare for the upcoming birthday banquet, Vivi asked the Duke if she could invite Baron Shalopia's family. The Duke readily agreed. After all, choosing an older female companion was a significant event for Vivi. He decided to invite them to Vivi's birthday banquet. Before this, Vivi had always thought that birthday banquets were just family gatherings. But she was told that once she chose an older female companion, she would officially enter social life. So before that, the Duke wanted to introduce his lovely and excellent daughter to all the nobles of Iblington, to their complete satisfaction. Soon, Baron Shalopia's family arrived at the Duke's mansion. Their son, Lee's son, came along. Although the child seemed timid, Valletta sensed the aura of a guardian on him. Despite not having a contract yet, he could communicate with spirits. It was the first time Vivi had met such an amazing child. But the next second, the Baron angrily rebuked, "What are you doing? How dare you introduce this foolish child to the Duke? Young lady, you have no shame." He then ordered the nanny to take the child away. This scene not only made the Duke clench his fists, but also shocked Vivi. How could he belittle his own child like that? Especially when Lee Sin clearly had such great talent. Vivi noticed Valletta wanted to follow Lee Sin, but refrained because the Duke and Vivi were still present. She needed to end this unpleasant exchange quickly. "You two must be tired after waiting for so long. Please go and get some rest." "Father, don't you have something to say to me? I'm glad you understood what I meant." He prepared to leave with him. Before leaving, Vivi remembered the snacks she had prepared for Lee Sin. She made plans to meet with Valletta in an hour. Unfortunately, Lee Sin doesn't like crowded places, so he won't be able to attend your birthday banquet. Vivi smiled gently. "It's all right. I don't like noisy places either. I completely understand." But after seeing the family off, Vivi suddenly said to her father, "Father, I don't like that Baron. How could he say such things to a 5-year-old child? It's truly upsetting." The girl simply said she disliked the man. Her father, the Duke, immediately declared his intention to end the Baron's life. Because his actions had upset his precious daughter, he would have to pay the price. Vivi went to Valletta's room.